بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. هلو.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ. فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر. والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا. صلوات.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن ولا ظالم ظلم حقا محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. Among the believers are men true to what they promised Allah. Among them is he who has fulfilled his vow, and among them is he who awaits, and they do not change in the least. And I'll explain what this means as we move along. Just before I begin, could you remove the echo? Thanks. Firstly, the concept of hero, or what is heroic and heroism, is something that may be defined by many people throughout the world differently. For example, in this country, especially in a lot of Anglo-Saxon countries, they will call someone a hero if they had a pretty ordinary ordeal that they got away with. And they'll say this person's a hero. Something would have happened, a car swerved and nearly hit them. they say they were hero, and that was heroic. And the definition of heroism is different when it comes to these nations. And even the world we live in with movie production, when it comes to what's brought up with regard to Marvel and the lives of Stan Lee's comic characters that have been brought into life and integrated into many parts, even to the point that they were adopted by children movie producers in order to make people associate with some kind of heroism and heroics. But they were unrealistic heroes. They were created by people that lacked any heroics in their life whatsoever. And if you look at before Stan Lee made Marvel, one of the first superheroes to be created was not by Marvel but by DC. Where two men, Schuster and Siegel, they created what we know as Superman. And Superman, if you noticed, he looks like an ordinary man, glasses wearing Clark Kent, who was a depiction of Siegel's father. And alternatively, this character, this Clark Kent, had a secret that he had these superhuman powers. And there they were seen as what? Comic book heroes. And that's the term that they were looked at as heroes, and this is how they were. But a hero, they will tell you, is someone who inspires, but I could never become like Superman. Why? Because look, I've got a lot of things that affect me. It's not only kryptonite that weakens me. There's a lot of things that I see that will affect me and things that will happen to me and take away my powers. And if he's meant to be this exemplar that I look up to, there's no way that I could match his feats. And whenever he decides, he can choose what is right and what is wrong, and what is perceived by the people he's around to be righteous and what is not. So a hero must be someone that's connected to us. They have accomplishments, but they must be someone like us. Thus Allah Azza wa Jal, upon bringing people to us onto the earth to preach to us, Allah didn't send angels onto this earth. Because an angel doesn't have desires. An angel is aql, is intellect, without the shahwa, without the desire, without the lust. So if an angel said to you, like imagine like you were standing with a eunuch. A eunuch is someone that has been castrated. Someone that the old days the kings used to use eunuchs to guard their harems, because they couldn't hoist a flag, so they had no issue with them being around the women. So what happened with these eunuchs that they had in these regions, they don't have an effect. So if a eunuch says to you, oh, these pretty women walking past, but I lowered my gaze. Yeah, I'd expect you, so you're not going to get affected. You know what I mean? So if an angel said that I lowered my gaze, it's no special feat. It's an angel. Allah sent people to us, and their statement was what? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, Innama ana basharun mithlukum. I'm a human like you are. I'm a human. I eat. I get hungry, I eat. I get thirsty, I drink. I get sleepy, I sleep. I desire women like you desire women. I get married. He had all these things, so when he would do something, it would have some value. It would have value, otherwise it would not have any value, and we could not emulate this person because he'd be superhuman. Anything that they do, so a lot of people say they're Nabi. No. I have to try my best. When we say, for example, when you say the word Imam, what does Imam mean in English? You use that word, what does Imam mean? It means yardstick. You know what a yardstick is? A yardstick, I know the word sounds very derogatory, but a yardstick is what you measure everything by. Use a yardstick to measure everything by. That's the standard. That if I want to achieve excellence, that I have to attempt to be like who? Like the Imam. This is where I achieve excellence. This is where I reach the highest levels I can possibly reach. But why are heroes adored? Why are they worshipped? Why do people look up to them? Why do people venerate them? And if you look at heroes, we said they're humans. But what is a human known by? We say by their mawaqif, their stances, the positions they take. And there's times where you sit down, like for example, you were watching the NBA, and then you see someone like LeBron James say, I stand with Israel. Automatically just fell right to the bottom of the pile for you. Floyd Mayweather, people tell you, he's the greatest boss of all time. I stand with Israel and stand with genocide. Automatically they fall to the bottom. He didn't say I stand with genocide, but that's what he was pretty much saying. So they go right to the bottom of the barrel for you. They have no value. Then you see someone that loses everything. He loses his contract. He loses his position for his stance. You say, this is a man. This is someone that knows what they're doing. They've taken a position where it came at a huge loss. If you and I say something, there's nothing we're going to lose, you know. What are we going to lose? We don't have, for someone to lose a certain position when they speak. They lose all their contracts, they lose everything, all their paydays. They turn from billionaires to sub-millionaires. How? Because they take a stance. And many of them, people declared themselves as forces to be reckoned with. And when it came to the time of trial, only a few names were etched into history. Not that many. Many stood and said, another, I'm this person, I'm that. And when it came to a stance, they left. People that came to the Imam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, and said to the Imam that, look, I will give you my horse, I'll give you my sword. And those that said to, you know, when we read Majlis of Imam Hussein in Karbala, they don't read you the whole history because it's too long. But there were people that actually fought, no one tells you about, in Karbala, fought and said, yes, I've done my bidding on before the 10th and after, because there was little skirmishes here and there, and they left. They said to the Imam, look, we've done enough fighting, but we've done our bit, we're gone. They never remained right to the end to achieve the ultimate goal. So, everyone talks when there is no imminent danger. When there's no time to stand, you know, like when the problems grow, many people start to diminish. The numbers fall away. وَإِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّ الدَّيَانُونَ, as Imam Hussein alayhi salam says. When the trial comes, only a few remain. Only a few are the ones that still keep firm to their religion. There's no one vocal anymore. As one poet says, he says, تَخْرَسَ الشَّفَايِفِ لَوْ حَكَمْهَا السِّيفِ, that the lips become what? Silent when they are ruled by the sword. When the sword is above their head, everyone goes quiet. When they know that it's so close to them. And if you look in modern times, from the heroics of Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr, all the way to, if you look at the beginning of the Islamic resistance in Lebanon, Sheikh Raghib Harb, and those in between them, only a few stood out and would stand. Hala taban, you know, when Hashr ma'an nas Eid, as they say, when when we're victorious, we all stand and we say, yep, we're here. But when you're by yourself and everyone's against you, and to stand at that moment, that's the most difficult. And thus, nothing in history is compared to the heroics of Karbala. Historically, nothing's like this day. As even Imam Hassan ibn Ali al-Mushtaba says, he says, La yawm ka yawmika Aba Abdullah. There's no day like yours, O Abu Abdullah. No day even compares to this day. And on these early days of Sha'ban, this month that has no mornings, no days of mourning. Shahr Sha'ban doesn't have any days of mourning. It's all days of celebration. And it begins with a lot of birth dates. There's a lot of dates that we have when it comes to the births in this day. But I mentioned the verse in the Quran where Allah says, Min al-Rijal, Min al-Mu'mineen. So it says, Min al-Mu'mineen. When we start and we look at this verse, it says, Min al-Mu'mineen, it's talking about the believers, but not all the believers, of the believers. So within the elite believers, there are, every believer enters paradise, but there's levels. There's believers that وَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنَ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ فَقَدْ فَازَ. There's ones that just slip through and just barely get into paradise. And then there's those that are right at the top. So Allah mentions مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, of the believers, رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. So these men of the believers were true to what they promised Allah. So they made a covenant with Allah. What's a covenant you make with Allah? The covenant you make is when you say, many times you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, that I testify there is no other deity, there is no God but Allah. In other words, there's no one even worth mentioning with God. God is above all. If God says something, I don't care what everyone says. If God, like sometimes you hear people, you told them this is halal or this is haram, he says, I don't care, I'm hungry. One of the things I hear a lot of people, this happens, so 2 points I hear a lot, and I want to mention them. One is people that go to see masseuses. There are men that go see a masseuse. A masseuse and a masseur. A masseur is a male that gives massages. A masseuse is a female. There are males that go see females to give them a massage. And they tell you, oh yeah, I've got problems, I need to see. ما بيمشي إلا إيديه مرة. What the hell? Only a woman's able to massage your back. And then they'll make excuses. بسوري شرع. He makes up rules in order to validate what they do. Or in other cases, and I've had this question from people that go get their nether regions, their pubes, their pubic regions removed by the opposite gender. How do you do that? You uncover your aura in front of the other gender. They tell you, oh, it's halal. You say, why? He said, because their intentions to remove excess hair for me, but they're not allowed to view your private parts. So then they sit there and they decide what is right and what is wrong. Or someone that wants to work in a job that involves haram. They tell you, if I don't do this, how am I going to make money? You told them, God says this is permissible, God says that is not permissible. So these people are true when they testify to Allah and they get up on the prayer mat every day and they say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. Iyyak means thee, you, only Allah we worship. So these men, صَدَقُوا مَا عَهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. And then he says, Allah Azza wa Jal, فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. Of these people, believers, these men that were truthful, there were those that were, it's a nice word when it says قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. قَضَى نَحْبَهُ is when they are killed. It says, it's a nice word, it's better than saying, for shahadi, it says قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. It means they fulfilled their vow. He made a vow with God, he fulfilled it. Khatama. Khitamuhu misk. He khatama. He sealed this. He fulfilled it. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. You know who this verse came down upon? It came down upon 3 men. And a verse can be applicable elsewhere. But who did it come down upon is very important. منهم من قضى نحبه. It speaks about Hamza and Ja'far al-Tayyar. Allah sent this verse. Imagine these two people. Hamza, the uncle of the Prophet, Sayyid al-Shuhada, the master of martyrs, Asadullah, the lion of God. In this, alayhi salam, he fulfilled his vow with God. And Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam, was the other one, At-Tayyar, who when his arms were severed, Rasulullah said, when Ja'far's arms were severed, they were replaced with wings. That's why they call him At-Tayyar, that took him and ascended him to paradise. And then it says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. The ones that await came down upon who? Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That he still awaits. And then the verse says, وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. And I'll explain what وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا as we move along what it means here. Okay. Now, the heroes of the eras that have passed, some of them, their sun rises and it sets. Their time they remember till the next martyr rises and his sun sets, or the next righteous, heroic person rises, his sun sets. Except one sun never sets, and that's the heroics of Karbala. Never sets. Every year you sit and listen to the majalis, they're renewed. It's as if you are watching it all over again, and it's all new, and you are yearning to hear the same story. And these heroes, mention people like Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. If you want to mention, to understand, just to give you an understanding of what type of heroes these people were, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, when we mention him, we say al-Muwasi. You've ever heard when they call him al-Muwasi? What does Muwasi mean? What's Muwasat? See, you might look at the word for Awasi is someone that gives condolences or someone that gives solace. And someone that bihas ma'ak, you know, they say feels with you. It's more than this. See, I'll give you an example of a Muwasi. Muwasi is the highest state of sacrifice, of giving. Did you know that? See, ata or giving is, if I have $200, I give you 100 and I keep 100, this is ata. This is good. There's a level higher than this. And it's called ithar. In the Quran, when it mentions the word ithar, وَيَأْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ, Allah says about ithar, وَلَوْ كَانُوا وَكَانُوا بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةً. What does khasasa mean? That they live in privation, that they're poor. In other words, that these people, when they give, if I have $100, I give you the 100 and I go without. But I'll make you feel like, oh, you know, yeah, it's as if I've got a treasury inside, got faddal, you know, and I'll go without, but you have. This is called ithar. But there's a higher level than this. There's a higher level than ithar. And that's muwasat. Muwasat is when I have, but you don't have. And I can't get what I have to you, so I go without. That's the highest level. It's I can't get it to you, I go without. Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam had this. And obviously this is a time of celebration, so we don't want to go into details, but of them, as you know, was where he refused to drink water, because Imam Hussein alayhi salam was unable to get water. Even if he drank, no one would have blamed him because of the situation, yet he went without. That's an altruistic behavior. Altruist is someone that is selfless, doesn't think about themselves. That's a hero. The Imam himself, Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, so Abu al-Ahrar we call him. You know, we call him Abu al-Ahrar. What does Abu al-Ahrar mean? The father of the free. You know, when Americans call themselves the land of the free. They always mention the land of the free. You know, like I used to remember this meme someone would send, and where one guy would send a senator, one of those right-wing senators, he says, "Are you free tonight?" He goes, "You're goddamn right, I'm free, I live in America." You know, so something like they have this thing where we're free. They push this right to the nth degree that we are free. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Abu al-Ahrar. Why they call him the father of the free? He was free to make a decision. He could have decided to take their offer and be subservient, and many people do. Many people take the offer. You've seen in your life many people. Let's take a look at when you look at, for example, one good example is Elon Musk, where he first opened Twitter, said, "I'm not blocking anyone's account." This guy's so rich and he's so powerful, and anyone's allowed to do anything they want. October events take place, you know, because that's when the war in Palestine began. It didn't begin before October the 7th, 2023. Before that, everyone was happy. You know, it was rainbows and, you know, furry floss before that. And then just now, till the Hamas committed the terrorist attack, and then the problems all began. Before that, it was honky-dory, everyone was happy. So, he said anyone can speak, and in fact, he put up an image of a Jon Stewart skit mocking the way the Israelis deal with the media. And you see, like, all right, this guy's going to be impartial, this is good. He stayed like this until the masters beckoned him to their bidding in Tel Aviv. And he came back from Tel Aviv and he came out and he was holding this dog tag. SubhanAllah, it was so symbolic. You think about it, dog tag, it was symbolic. You know, when you put a tag on a dog, hashekum, to label, in other words, you work for us. And he said, "I'm wearing this to remember the hostages that have been taken." I said, SubhanAllah. This guy is so powerful, so rich, they put him under their feet. And people worship him. Anything he says, if he says a word, people buy shares in his name. Whatever he says, and any comment he makes, he can make companies skyrocket, he can make companies bankrupt. But the hero, the believers accept. In contrast, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam was the one that said, "Wallahi la a'tikum biyadi a'ta' dhalil." I will not give my hand in allegiance like an abased person, like a humiliated person. Wala aqirru, some narration says wala afirru. ولا أقر إقرار العبيد or ولا أفر فرار العبيد. Both of them are correct. Why? Because ولا أفر فرار العبيد means, well, I will not run away like a slave runs away. But I like the other meaning, ولا أقر إقرار العبيد, means I will not make the declaration or the statement of a servant, which is I will not give homage to you. I will not give you allegiance. I will not succumb to your bidding. I will not be your servant. That's the Imam, free. Abu al-Ahrar, a hero in his own right. He emancipated all mankind from tyranny. So we would never accept a leader like Yazid. Unlike, if you take a look at the people that don't follow Imam Hussein, every day you see a video that puts Saddam and they'll say Rahmatullah alayh. Have you seen it when they put him on YouTube? They say Al-Qa'id Saddam, Rahimahullah, kada, kada, kada. Why do they say that for? Why? Because for them Saddam was a Muslim and a leader like Yazid. Okay, and Yazid was a Muslim and a leader, and so acceptable, and it's one big happy family. Whereas Imam Hussein alayhi salam freed us from this, Abu al-Ahrar. He freed us from shirk and idolatry, accepting other than God, like these people have. These people that follow other than Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You see the way they venerate everyone that is associated. Look at, for example, when you go to the holy places where they forget their religion and they venerate their kings. This is the religion that they follow. And then you look at Ali ibn al-Hussein Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, wa ala al-Hussein as-salam, and his position that even those that belong to the caliphate that ruled would praise him. You know the story that you hear, that when the governor Abdul Malik ibn Marwan wanted to go to Hajar al-Aswad, he went to Mecca to go to Hajar al-Aswad. If you go to Mecca and you're going to the Hajj, have you ever tried to go to Hajar? Those that have been to Hajj, go to the Hajar al-Aswad, how hard is it? It's so congested. If you get a bottleneck, you know, it'd be something that's, it's ultra thin. That to get through is very difficult. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, every time he tried to get in, he would get spat out. He wouldn't get in. When Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam came, as he came towards the Hajar, the people made way. They moved out of the way and he got to the Hajar. Just walked and he got to there. The poet Al-Farazdaq, he mentioned in this, he says, يَكَادُ يُمْسِقُهُ عَرْفَانُ رَاحَتِهِ. He says, رُقْنُ الْحَطِيمِ إِذَا مَا جَاءَ يَسْتَلِيمُ. Now, this is mind-blowing. In other words, it wasn't the Imam that wanted to get to the Hajar al-Aswad. It was the Hajar al-Aswad that wanted to touch the Imam. Al-Farazdaq was not a follower of Ahl al-Bayt, the poet. He was a follower of the Umayyad regime. And he wrote this poem. He said it wasn't the Imam that wanted the black stone wanted to touch the Imam. This is the status of the Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. That even the most venerated, the greatest stone on this earth, the house of God, the venerated house of God, the sanctified house of God, wanted to embrace the Imam alayhi salam. This is the station of this Imam. So the question is, what is it that a hero specifically does that creates awe within us for them? What makes us pick one over the other? What is it about a hero that makes us take note and stand up and adore them and trying to emulate them? Why is it we pick certain people? You know, sometimes when people mention, I remember someone had written a book. He wrote it was a booklet, the 50 heroes of Islam. 50 heroes. You know, if I told you 50 heroes of Islam or 50 champions, Abtal al-Islam, the first name in there, yani if it's not there, this person kafar billah jahratan. If it's not Ali ibn Abi Talib, you know, you think, where's this guy been living for the last millennia? He's been living somewhere else. He's probably been living in another galaxy. But Ali would have been there anyway. But in the first page he had Khalid ibn al-Walid. And you will go from page to page to page, you know, 3 names did not exist in the book. Do you know which names they were? Ali ibn Abi Talib, Hamza and Ja'far al-Tayyar were not in the 50 greatest heroes of Islam. So I was thinking, all right, where are these other people's heroics? If you ask, where is there a battle in Islam where Khalid ibn Walid fought and killed enemies? Go. Don't sit there and listen to a YouTube video. Go bring me a battle Rasulullah sent where he engaged with someone. The only ones you'll hear is where he betrayed someone, where he killed someone that was unarmed. Where if you look up Malik ibn Nuwayra, where Khalid ibn al-Walid with Malik ibn Nuwayra, where he slaughtered him and his family, and he violated his wife. Could you imagine that? That's why when you see the Daesh, you wonder why he's like this. You know, he's emulating his hero. But if you look at the heroes of the believers and the way they are, there's no comparison whatsoever when it comes to these people. So it's their accomplishments and what they've done. And that's what makes you admire them, how they've overcome tragedies and how they remain patient through these tragedies. They were steadfast. And this is where we come to the part, it says in the Quran, وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. What does وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا means? It means that they would not change in the least. And no matter what the situation is, they remain the same. There's a saying for Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha, where the sermon is called Wasf al-Muttaqeen, where Amir al-Mu'mineen describes the Muttaqi, those that guard against evil, the righteous, the most pious. He says, نزلت أنفسهم منهم في البلاء كالتي نزلت في الرخاء. That this righteous person during bala, during hardship, is akin to during rakha, during ease. In other words, doesn't matter what's happening. If they are having the time of their life, they're happy. You know, when people go to ziyarah, everything's working out. You see they're beaming. But even in hardship, they're still beaming. What did they say about Imam Hussein alayhi salam? That during the battle of Karbala, every time a martyr fell, ازداد وجه الحسين تلؤلؤا أو تلألؤا, that his face increased in luminance. It became brighter and brighter and brighter. That even the enemy said, we have never seen someone that his family has been killed, and everyone around him that is dear, and he remains steadfast and solid and firm. This is heroics. Honestly, when you see people today, I saw a video someone had of a father who had lost his first child, second child, and he said, this is my honor. In Gaza, this man was, both his children have been martyred. He said, this is my honor. That I've lost two children in this way. They're not a loss, they're a gain. Here's what he said. He said, each one will ishfa, intercede for 70 members of his family. He didn't get the Daesh 72 virgin memo. He was still on he said 70 members of his family will be interceded for. Imagine this. That's how he's thinking. This is a gain for me. This is our honor. This is our honor. Someone calls you and labels you these things, is your honor. If it means for me, to be, just to give you an idea, when you're being labeled, did you know the Sodomites at the time of Nabi Lut, did you know they used to insult Nabi Lut and the righteous people, the ones that didn't commit the actions of the Sodomites? They would say, these people are people that purify themselves. That was the insult. They purify themselves. They won't do this stuff. They're not into anything kinky. These people are pure. That was like sabbi to them. This was to put them down. And this is the way the world sees you. As a believer, they perceive you in this way because you're patient, because you're steadfast, because you're forbearant, because you're enduring. The world will see you in this manner. But the only reason you have all this is because you learned from the school of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. You learned from the heroics of Karbala. When you see a youth, honestly, that trades the warmth of his house to go down and fight and defend his rights, okay? You'll go back in the history of this youth, One day he was sitting in the majlis and he was hearing about Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan alayhi salam. They listen to these majalis, they absorb these majalis. And they know that because of this, I have to defend myself. And if I die, I reach the highest levels of paradise. Why? Because I'm here to defend my rights. I'm here to sit down. Am I here to sit down and enjoy this world? Or am I here, if my back's put to the wall, to stand up? I remember when, I'll finish off with this last thing. I went to the UK about 20 years ago. It was during the Gulf War. Remember the Gulf War, the one where they ousted the Ba'athi government. So I remember when I got brought in, because I had all the tattoos on my passport for the axis of evil, the Iranian visa, the Iraq, everywhere we had, well, not Iraqi, then Syrian, all this. So they took me in for questioning, and he asked me, he said, where is your position with Iraq and the Iraqi war? I said simple. Every British soldier and every American soldier that went to Iraq to help the Iraqi people and liberate the Iraqi people and give them a better life, I'm with them. But every American soldier and British soldier that went there to murder, rape and pillage, God willing, they return in a body back. It's that simple. Now he can't respond to this because they're saying they're there to liberate and give you goodness. So then when he asked me about you defending yourself, but he didn't say this, he goes, people that resist. I said to him, what would you think of any Englishman if the Nazis had invaded England in 1942? They had invaded England. What would you think of any Englishman that refused to defend England? He said, he is a traitor. So I said, then why do you not apply this to the Muslim whose country is being invaded if they need to defend himself? And she said to me, fair point, and they still let me in the country. And I didn't have any issues. They didn't tell me, you're going to go back. But the point is, it's a valid point that everyone will accept. Not now anyway. I don't know what the world's heading at this point, but back then I think they were more civil. The world's gone in a different direction. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our Master Al-Hujjat ibn Hassan. With him is the relief for all the believers. We ask Allah not to take us from this world until He is pleased with us. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the opportunity to serve our Master and stand beneath His standard and be martyred by His side. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتاكم جميعا ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب وتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.